Venture Forth. This is a game that used to be on Kickstarter, now we have the real thing. This is a 2 to 4 player game, plays in 75 minutes, 90 minutes. In this game, each player will lead a party of heroes that will travel around ancient Greece and will fight against monsters, will try to accomplish different types of tasks. When you open the box, you notice some components that really look typical of adventure games, cards representing heroes, monsters, weapons, magical items, and some other components that really look Eurogamey. A pretty abstract board, a lot of little wooden cubes. So, is this a Eurogame, an adventure game? Let's take a closer look and then maybe we can try to figure that out together. This is the board for the game. It has two sides. This one here is recommended for beginner players and this other one for advanced players. The board is divided in locations, which are these boxes here with a temple printed on them, and paths, which are a series of boxes that connect the locations with one another. A main element in this game is this deck of encounter cards. Encounters include enemies such as these ones and adventurers such as these ones. So you can tell the adventurers apart from the enemies because there's a text at the bottom of their card and the enemies don't have that. Each player starts the game with a hand of 5 cards and with a character in front of him on the table. The adventurers all start at level 1, so they're all associated with a card like that. When an adventurer levels up, then you flip that card, the adventurer goes to level 2. All adventurers have the same level 1 and level 2 cards, but once a character levels up and goes to level 3, then it receives one of these cards, and each level 3 card is different from the others because each grants a different power to the character that receives it. Each player has a pawn that indicates the position of his party on the board. During a turn, a player must do one of 4 things. A player can choose to discard as many cards as he wants from his hand and then to draw an equal number of cards. Or a player can choose to make an offering to the temple where the party of the player is. For example, in this case, the player could choose to make an offering there, in which case the player pays the price indicated by the symbol to the left of the arrow and receives the benefit indicated by the other symbol. Here the player pays a coin to receive the ability to discard as many cards as he wants from his hand, draw an equal number, and then play 2 cards on the board. And if not using a special power such as this one, another option that the player has during a turn is to simply play a card on the board. Cards are color-coded. As you can see, cards are played in the boxes forming the paths, and a card can be placed adjacent to a location of the matching color or adjacent to a card of the same color. In this case, for example, all of these placements are legal because there is a yellow card there already and because there's a green card there already. When you place a card on the board, you receive the benefit indicated in the box where you place the card. For example, if you place a card there, you can choose between receiving a coin or receiving a point of will, indicated by these cubes, and then you place your point of will on one of your adventurers, and unless you're using a special power, usually will cannot be transferred from adventurer to adventurer. I'll explain later what will is for, but mainly it is used to score victory points. If you place a card there, you receive a point of will, and then you can draw a Lazy Susan from a pool of Lazy Susans. Well, that is not exactly the technical term, but we just call them like this. These are exploration tokens, and you look at the exploration token and then you place it in one of these spaces that are on the board. Each path has one of those spaces associated with it. That means that each path can receive an exploration token. We actually like the variant in the game in which you look at the token and then you place it face down without revealing to the other players what that token is. If you played a card there, you simply receive a coin. If you play a card on that symbol, then you receive 2 points of will, but then you have to give a point of will to each other player. When you play cards on the board, you're not just collecting resources, but also you're trying to form complete paths that connect locations and that have cards profitable to you. If your party at the beginning of your turn is to one of the two extremities of a complete path, then you can choose in your turn the venture forth action. When you venture forth, your party travels on the path that you chose, and as it goes, it encounters each card on the path. If you encounter an adventure, then you can recruit the adventure. That number there is both the combat strength of the adventure that is used in combat and also the price in the gold coins that it costs to recruit that adventure, in which case you just add the adventure to your party up to a maximum of 5 adventurers. So you can recruit the adventure but do not have to. And if you encounter a monster, then you have to fight the monster. That is the combat strength of the monster, and that is the penalty that must be paid if you cannot defeat the monster. To fight against a monster, you total together the combat strength of your heroes, and you need to match or exceed the combat strength of the enemy. In this case, for example, if this is my party, I'm not strong enough to beat the harpy, and I pay the penalty. But if my heroes have will on them, then during a combat I can spend a point of will per character to double the strength of the character. For example, if this is the case, I decide to spend that point of will associated with the Amazon. Now the total combat strength of my party is 8, and I can eliminate the harpy, which is then removed from the board, and then I complete my journey. As your party travels, enemies that are not defeated and adventurers that are not recruited stay on the board, but they are flipped by 90 degrees like this to indicate that they have been encountered once. If again a party travels on that path and the enemies are not defeated, the adventurers are not recruited, then these cards are simply removed, because each card can be encountered only up to 2 times before it goes away. If you traveled along a path that has an exploration token associated with it, then at the end of your journey you receive the token and you also receive the associated benefit. It may be some gold. Actually, some of these tokens have a catch because they force you to take a point of despair represented by a black cube, and you had to give the point of despair to one of your characters. And or an exploration token may instruct you to look at the top 3, 2 or 1 cards of the treasure deck, and then you choose one that you add to your hand. But fighting against monsters and encountering other adventurers only makes sense if the heroes in your party are happy about it, if that fulfills their ambitions. Each character has an ambition written at the bottom of the card. For example, the swordman is happy when he defeats an enemy along a path that also has an adventurer. The scoundrel wants to defeat an enemy with the smallest power in play. Other examples: encounter an adventurer as the last encounter along a path, gain a treasure, arrive at a shore site after venturing, encounter an adventurer with a power of 1, recruit an adventurer. So as you can see, there really is a large variety of possible ambitions that may involve adventurers, monsters, locations. And when the ambition of a character is fulfilled, then you can spend will points belonging to that character according to the character's level card. For example, the party of the swordman just defeated an enemy along a path with an adventurer. Woohoo! Then now you can spend one of his will points to gain 3 victory points, or you can spend 2 of his will points to get rid of a despair cube if you have one. Oh, what a coincidence, it does have one. Then you also gain 4 victory points, and that symbol there is not a house. It indicates that the hero levels up. And now next time that the ambition of that hero is fulfilled, you can spend will points according to these other stats here. So this is how the game works. You build paths and collect will points. You travel along those paths trying to trigger the ambitions of your heroes so that you can transform their will points in victory points. and you continue playing this way until the last Explorer token is placed on the board. At that point, each player takes a turn, then the game is over and you count victory points. Each will point at that point is worth 1 victory point. It takes 2 coins to score a victory point. Then you can score treasure cards that you gain during the game, but you need to match them with heroes that have the same symbol. And it takes a hero for each card. For example, I had this treasure card and I have this hero, then I can score that card and that gives me a victory point. But if I have, suppose, 3 treasure cards with this symbol and I only have 2 adventurers with this symbol, then I can just as well play one of my 3 treasures for its special effect, because in any case I will not be able to score it for points at the end of the game. And also the player that has the highest number of Explorer tokens gains 2 victory points, the second highest gains 1 victory point. You total all the victory points together and you determine who the winner is. So to go back to the question that I asked at the beginning, is this a Euro game? Is this an adventure game? Well, it is a hybrid between the two, but not a hybrid that is both adventure and Euro from beginning to end. At the beginning of the game, in the early phases, you feel that this game is much more about adventure than anything else. Your party is small, your heroes are weak, the monsters look threatening, you have to figure out ways to destroy them, or at least you have to decide if you want to take a calculated damage from encountering a monster. But then later in the game, your party becomes powerful enough that you can pretty much destroy any monster on the board. So at that point, you start worrying much more about, well, preparing good combinations of cards on the board so that you can gain a lot of victory points by using them. And of course, you also have to worry about being able to use that combination of cards before the players steal it from you. This is a game that has a high level of interaction. You really always have to take into account what other players are doing, because if, you know, with very little exceptions, you will complete a nice path, but then you have to wait a turn before you can use it and other players can take it from you. So you have to figure out ways to make a path that may be not attractive to other players. You may make one that is somewhat attractive, far from the one that you're really willing to take, you really want to take advantage of. So there are a lot of things in which you have to deal with this, but definitely there's a lot of interaction. You can annoy the players by placing cards on the paths that they're trying to build to make their paths less profitable. So if you like direct confrontation like that, this is a good game, but otherwise, you know, there are players that do not enjoy confrontation too much, and maybe this is not a game that they're going to enjoy a lot. I also like the fact that the characters have so many different ambitions. That means different conditions that will trigger their powers. And that also means that depending on the combination of heroes that you have, you will play differently. Sometimes you will be looking for certain locations, sometimes you will go after certain monsters, try to encounter certain types of heroes. So I really think that this adds a lot to the replay value of the game. Definitely it forces you to create different strategies and to look at the board differently from game to game. I like that a lot. Overall, this is a very nice game. My group really enjoyed it. I personally enjoyed it too. I think it is a game that you can play many times, exploring different strategies and different combinations of heroes. Love the level of interaction, in a certain way the intensity, the number of decisions that you have available. So overall, pretty good game. I enjoyed it.